All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we are the most fortunate religious organization on the planet because we have the spotless Vedic knowledge. As we all know, Lord Brahma was instructed from the heart with Vedic knowledge. He protected that Vedic knowledge when it was attacked by two demons. He imparted it to his son Narada and many others at the highest realm of the sages and other expansions in the early days of the universe. We know from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 8th chapter, that there are Mahajanas, 12 great authorities, Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kapila, Svayambhava Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhishma, and that they all say the same things. Anyone who's reading Srila Prabhupada's books will see that when he quotes one of the Mahajans, that the information that they impart is verifiable by one of the other Mahajans. And this is why they are great authorities. They are enunciating the inner purports of the Vedic knowledge, and they all agree. By realization, they realized it. So you can ask them a question from any perspective, and they'll give you the correct understanding of the highest perspective in the Vedic knowledge. So we are very fortunate because we have the Mahajans as the root basis, and we have the Vaishnava Sampradaya, as we see given in the end of the introduction in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, that there is a chain of spiritual masters who is endeavoring to protect the Vaishnava knowledge, Vedic wisdom. And Srila Prabhupada repeatedly quotes them. Even our contemporaries, Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, are frequently quoted by Srila Prabhupada as their commentaries lend clarity. And he employs them in his reports to give all of us disciples a clearer and broader understanding of the Vedic knowledge so that we may realize it as opposed to learning it. Now, in all of these individuals, there is the same commitment to not adulterating the information, that it is given as it is, that it is to be given in the broadest context, that it is to be unadulterated. There is no deviation. Srila Prabhupada has repeatedly said, if I have any credit, it's that I have not deviated. And we see that Srila Prabhupada's purports are the culmination of the efforts of the Mahajanas and the Vaishnava Sampradaya. Now, it is not possible for Srila Prabhupada to translate all of that unless he is realized. And there is no doubt, if you simply read Srila Prabhupada's books, you will know beyond any shadow of a doubt he was a fully realized Nitya Siddha, eternal devotee of the Lord, and that he was capable and he was being supported by all of the commentaries of the Sampradaya, of all of the Mahajanas, and he brought forward the knowledge in an excellently unadulterated fashion. So it is our responsibility to accept his reports, his explanations, translations, everything that there is, because of that specific empowerment. Similarly, there is a unique feature carried by Srila Prabhupada, and that is he was the personality chosen to fulfill the prophecy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It wasn't you or me or anybody who's coming. There's no waiting for the second coming nonsense in this Sampradaya. We understand that Srila Prabhupada did come to the West, did spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, did use the Sankirtan movement as the method for the age, as inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and was unequivocally successful. And the devotees that surrendered to Srila Prabhupada and accepted his teachings are unshakably devoted to his lotus feet. So that special empowerment, coupled with the additional support of the Sampradaya and the additional support of the 12 Mahajanas, shows that Srila Prabhupada's books are, beyond a doubt, the spotless understanding of Vedic knowledge, and that we as disciples should be humble to read and accept it, and no one should have the arrogance or ignorance to think they should improve upon them, when they actually derived their spiritual life from the teachings Srila Prabhupada invested in them. Now, he approved his books when he felt they were a direct reflection of his intent and purpose. that they covered the subjects, they were presented correctly, they appeared correctly, they were sized, print, style. The amount of details is beyond description. And similarly, he repeatedly told those assisting him in developing his books and printing, no changes. Do not adulterate my books. That if you change and adulterate the books, it will be havoc, devastation. He used several terms. But the principal statement was, no changes. Now, obviously Srila Prabhupada was very intelligent, and obviously Srila Prabhupada could foresee that he did not want his books to go the way of the Bible, that poor, adulterated document. It has been altered by every Tom, Dick, and Harry for centuries who thinks they can make it better and have only succeeded in making it worse. The poor Christians have such a difficulty in gleaming transcendental knowledge out of the book. So he wanted to avoid just that problem. So a firm instruction, direct instruction, no changes, do not change my books. Now, those people who were helping him, editing, typesetting, Sanskrit translation, a variety of levels, because of the intricacy of the books, all knew that they were to dedicate themselves in delivering the books without adulteration, from whatever Srila Prabhupada spoke or translated or dictated was to be brought forward into the printed page as purely as possible. A book has surfaced recently. Govinda Dasi was kind enough to direct us to it. Rameshvar had taken notes, several hundred pages of Srila Prabhupada, specifically concerning protecting the purity and authenticity of his books without adulteration. Similarly, Jayadvaita Swami, who is now supposedly the editor-in-chief, was told the same thing, not to edit his books. Now, there is a small book out, The Disobedience of Jayadvaita Swami, and I'd suggest to any of you who are concerned about the book revision issue, read that book. I again offer my obeisances unto Krishna Kant for his presenting it using the words of Jayadvaita Swami and the words of Srila Prabhupada, and leaving out all mental speculation, so there's very little room for criticism. But when we look at Jayadvaita's disobedience, continued disobedience, we can see that he has the astonishing arrogance and disobedience and insanity to challenge Srila Prabhupada, who represents the Mahajanas and the disciplic succession, and who was empowered specifically by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the purpose. Jayadvaita Swami thinks he can make it better. Now, this is insane. Jayadvaita Swami is certifiably insane under the spiritual definitions of our sampradaya. His Krishna consciousness is a product of Srila Prabhupada's books, and yet he thinks he is above his spiritual master, above the sampradaya, above the Mahajanas, and he can do a better job than Srila Prabhupada. That is insane, and insanity is a result of disobedience to the spiritual master. Knowing disobedience, intentional disobedience, arrogant disobedience. Jayadvaita Swami has lost the plot. He is in a position where he is refusing to step down. He is refusing to be responsible. This is offensive, disobedient, and insane. There should be no mercy shown to this person. He should be taken from his post. Now, he's been told by the likes of Govinda Dasi, bless her pure heart, that he is off the track. He has been written to humbly and requested to reevaluate. He has been told you're off the track. He has been, I don't know what all, by so many honest devotees to try to stop him from doing what he's doing and printing deviant, disgusting editions of Srila Prabhupada's books. And he has refused. Similarly, he is minimizing the glories of our spiritual master, which we are responsible as disciples to constantly glorify the spiritual master. That is what we pray in the morning. Constantly let me glorify that great personality, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our beloved spiritual master for this age of Kali Yuga. He is now saying Prabhupada is another guru and shouldn't have prayers to him. He has made errors that Jayadvaita is correcting. He's not to be glorified. He's just one of the rest of us. These offenses are cause and simultaneously symptoms of insanity. So all of us honest disciples cannot remove him because he's insane. There is no rational person in there to discourse with, to try to guide out of his illusion to a platform of being in the background. On the other hand, he's contaminated all of those around him to think they have the right and the intelligence to make alterations. Now, we see that Matsya incarnation was to protect the Vedas. We see that Lord Nrsimhadev was to protect one of the Mahajanas, Prahlad Maharaj. We see there was the incarnation of Kapila. We saw Krishna restate the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna to reestablish it. The Lord has repeatedly incarnated to protect the Vedic wisdom, and now we see we need that to happen again. Jayadvaita Swami is a deviant, insane person who is in a position of authority he should be removed from. Dear Lord Nrsimhadev, please immediately remove Jayadvaita Swami and his similar deviant supporters to protect the spotless integrity of Srila Prabhupada's books, the authority of our Vaisnava sampradaya. I offer that prayer unto the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadev humbly, unqualified to make prayers directly to the Lord, but in a state of emergency. I see that there needs to be a step taken by authority greater than me, greater than all of the honest Vaishnavas on the planet whose hearts are burning due to the offenses and disobedience causing the editing of Srila Prabhupada's books. I'm sure there are many sincere Vaishnavas who also want to see something done for the protection of our books, for the protection of our sampradaya, as respect to the Mahajanas, in recognition of your undeviating eternal concern over the protection and purity of the Vedic literature, which has been vested in the books of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada for this Kali Yuga. As a disciple of the spiritual master, I am impelled to protect him. He is present in his vani. It is non-different from Srila Prabhupada personally. It is our responsibility as disciples to protect Srila Prabhupada. Yet we are faced with an insane person who will not get out of his post, who will not stop printing these literatures, who will not correct the fake ISKCON BBT. In light of that need, one should surrender to the Supreme Lord and take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. I take shelter unto the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadev, who is the protector of the devotees. Please protect Srila Prabhupada. You are the protector of the movement. You are the protector of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada is the spiritual master. He lives in his books, in his vani form. Please protect my spiritual master and the spiritual master of all the Vanas Vaishnavas on the planet. Dear Lord Nrsimhadev, please immediately remove Jayadvaita Swami and his similar deviants to protect the spotless integrity of Srila Prabhupada's books and the authority of our Vaishnava sampradaya. Please stop the printing and distribution of these altered, adulterated books.